Four, three, two, one, go.
Showtime. Hi, welcome everyone. My name is Ramon Lewis.
And I'm Yugen,
Hi,
hailing from New
Yugen. Do you
York.
have a? Where'd the
Why are
second
you
name
Why are you
go?
laughing? I think it's kind of weird that you're laughing and I can't see you wearing that beautiful dress with the blue spots on it. And what's that? Some kind of
Is that what you're
plaid?
imagining me wearing? Because
Yes, I'm imagining you with your hair down, sloped over your shoulders, and you with
all
those
right, I'll
beautiful
take
red
it.
cheeks. Okay, yeah.
That's so sweet. Well, I'll take it because I've just got quarantine gear on and ain't that pretty.
I'm wearing my birthday suit.
Okay
No,
then.
no, I'm
That's a
joking.
good
I'm actually wearing
introduction.
I'm actually wearing pants, but that's just because I have to sit in my
Well, I was hoping we'd get there at the end. We can't start undressed. We have to sort of, undress the audience one sort of dot point at a time.
bit by bit. Okay, I'm down for
Yeah.
that. Let me put on some more clothes. Probably should
Okay, great.
a
While you
shirt.
do that, I'm going to introduce our topic for
All
the
right, go for it. Go
podcast
for it.
today. So, we spoke about the last podcast, we talked about values, we talked about how goals and values were a little bit different. So, we're going to dive in a bit deeper for this session. Um, so, yeah, we spoke about the synergistic um, connection of goals and values, but of course, how they are fundamentally different, and how goals are your desired outcome. So it's something in the future to achieve, whereas values are more, all encompassing. There's a deeper motivation behind them. They could probably get you a bit more excited because they are things that you believe in.
I kind
And
of
when,
remember that.
yeah, cool. Well, let's recap. And when goals spring from your values, this is where the magic happens. Would you agree?
Mm,
Yugen Kozmik?
I would agree. And my goal from the last podcast was to get to the end, so I'm kind of like feeling a little empty right now. So no, I'm joking.
Oh, don't
But
worry,
no,
we'll
it
fill
sounds.
your tank.
No, totally. I would agree. Actually, I learned quite a bit from our last podcast. Hopefully, people were listening um, and got a bit from it as well, and not
Yeah,
just browsing the internet. This is important
absolutely.
stuff.
It is, yeah. So I have a question for you, Yugen.
Oh boy,
Here we go.
there's only you. You're the only girl that matters, and I love you very much.
That's sweet.
Wait, that's where you're going, right?
Yeah, sure thing. You want to hear my question?
Oh,
It
uh,
actually, you
okay.
you may have just answered it already.
Really?
Yeah.
Go
All
on.
right. Ready? Okay. What is one of your goals, say, in the coming months? And then the second part of the question is I want you to take a look at this goal and tell me how it relates to your value or one of your values.
Huh.
Okay, go.
Look at that. That's my. There's my 10D intuition. Like just like coming in again.
I don't
It's
think there's such a thing as 10D, but you can keep riding on the 5D if you want.
Oh,
I'll
you don't
let
even
you.
know yet. It's okay. You'll get there.
Oh.
So one of my goals for the coming months is to see my beloved partner. Um,
Alrighty.
and yeah, hopefully by her birthday and mine, and that would be amazing.
Nice. We can meet in the middle.
What
Are
are
you
you
talking
thinking?
about me or
I told you you're the only one.
you?
I told you that
Bit.
months ago, and what, 2 months in, that it was you. Yep.
And I said, hold up, wait
Yep.
a minute.
Yeah, and here we are right now.
And here we are. Well, opening up to 10D consciousness can be quite something.
Yeah, so I
um,
mean, that's one of my goals. And it relates to my value in the sense that I guess like one of my highest values is something that you mentioned in the last podcast, which was connection. And
hmm.
I like having like actually in particular with us, we when we met, we connected instantaneously. Well,
Yeah.
actually, after a couple hours of watching you laugh at some two guys running around New Zealand on the entertainment system in front of us, but we connected, and I really value things like that because I like feeling you know, I like being relatable to other people, and you know,
Mm.
in relation to us, it was very deep and very enriching encounter. And those
Mm.
are, I find, to be more satisfying relationships, friendships, or otherwise. In this case, otherwise. Um, so yeah, like
Yeah,
connection, yeah, it was there, and it's still here.
connection was there. They're still here. It's one of
You're
mine
amazing.
too. And you, and you, Mr. Cosmic.
Yeah.
So,
So
so if we don't get there, if we don't achieve the goal to see each other between my birthday and yours, like you said, what is still there is a deep and meaningful connection that will drive us to continue making magic happen.
I mean, I didn't say all of that. What I was going to say is, if it doesn't happen, then I'm going to hijack the next flight, and yeah, trust me, everybody's gonna find out that I'm gonna get up. I'm gonna go see my girl, regardless.
Even
But
if you have to quarantine for 2 weeks.
I'll quarantine on the plane. I mean, hijacking a plane is not an overnight thing. That's at least 2 weeks, right? I mean, so.
Hey, where there's a will, there's a way, so they say.
Yeah.
Well, we can dream.
Amen.
Amen. So, back to values. I was just thinking about, living a value based life and what that means. And in particular, for me, I was going to talk about one of my highest values as well. Connection was the last podcast we did that I spoke about, and
Yeah.
I wanted to talk a little bit on contribution.
Okay.
So, I mean, I really like to share what I learn, especially, and I know you know this, as it relates to my experience.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's also about lessons I've learned, and in particular, how to move through painful experiences in life, whether
Mm.
that be physical or emotional, how to accept what's happening, and essentially how to transform the self.
Okay.
And I feel really passionate about it. And I'm lucky I have a job where I get to share how to move life through life's happenings with a little bit more ease and grace, and connect to the body and the spirit and all that good stuff. So I guess, if I had a goal I wanted to achieve at work, it might be, say, assisting students to feel a certain way. And if it wasn't achieved, because, results can be variable, then at least I still know I'm contributing to their overall well-being, and that's what's keeping me moving into the direction of that value every time.
Mm.
So there's that sustaining kind of drive and motivator to do the work I do.
I actually want to bring up something because this is kind of interesting. You, it, can we touch on how your values have actually led you down this path? Because you didn't always start here. Actually, you weren't always
No.
in this holistic life. You weren't always a yoga instructor. You weren't always a life coach or a healer. How
No.
did your values walk you down this path? This is actually quite interesting.
This is a very good question, because this is all about transformation. And this, well, I had no I didn't actually know what my values were at all. I just sort of floated through life for many years, and I mean, don't get me wrong, I immensely enjoyed all the floating, all the adventures. But I know that I always had this sort of deeper desire for more purpose and meaning. I just didn't know really quite what it was, so I experimented with different careers, and sort of adventured through different avenues in my career, and I loved all of it. Actually, I really enjoyed it. But going from having really no understanding of values and how they were influencing or not influencing my life, rather, to actually knowing and being really clear on what it is that I desired, was quite a jump and quite a contrast from, nothing to everything.
Mm-hmm.
But what happened was I ended up interesting enough, illness came to just knock on my door, and I then sort of had to reevaluate every single moment in my life because I kind of lost myself. So I started to do all this inner work, and the work that many people don't get the opportunity to do, or maybe there's just perhaps no desire to do it because it ain't easy. Like, it's not a walk in the park, because you have to really look at yourself and take full responsibility for your life if you choose to, of course. So yeah, before the healing happened and the evolving and the becoming more happy and feeling free, and then stepping into a career that was all about, healing others, because of course it comes from you first, was quite, it's been a very interesting, unbelievable, like painful and crazy experience. But you know what? I wouldn't have it any other way, because I wouldn't be here talking on this subject.
You know what? I mean, we can definitely even go further and dig a bit deeper, but just so we don't get off track, I just want to ask you comparatively. You said all the stuff that you did beforehand, you enjoyed it. Now that you're living this value-driven life, and you enjoy that as well, comparatively, what is the difference? What do you say is the big difference between the two, since you enjoyed both of them? What's the big difference between the two?
So I guess the biggest difference is just awareness. Having the ignorance of floating through life is very blissful. It's enjoyable. But the life experiences that have come about have moved my consciousness into more awareness of the self. And that is more treasured than how I used to think and how I used to be before that experience changed me. So that's kind of the biggest difference. It's sometimes confronting and overwhelming and frustrating, actually operating from that level of consciousness, because you have to deal with everything. You can't blame anybody. You can't point fingers at anyone. You have to take full responsibility. Yeah, and ownership. You're like, I create my life, I create my reality, and I have to actually stand in my power and accept everything that comes my way. Yeah. There is no one else to point the finger of blame. It's all me.
But
and it's empowering.
I was just about to say that also makes you even more powerful, because you realize you have that much more control over your life.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yes. It's
and
amazing.
Now, since we're talking about the value-driven life, let's moving forward, as just to really carry this conversation, we should probably take a couple values that I think we all share. So let's and we can use these and splice them into examples moving on.
Yeah.
So I was thinking, since we have connection, let's use that.
Cool.
Contribution.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one. And love.
Tick. And love.
Yeah.
Everybody loves love.
Everybody loves love.
Everybody wants love.
Yeah.
To be loved and to be lovable.
To love and be loved.
So, speaking on love, let's look at the other side of love, which is fear. Fear.
Okay.
Because what I think is true for most humans that make decisions is, whether they do this consciously or subconsciously, they're making a decision out of love or out of fear. So, for example, I might be like, out of love, I want to send Yugen Kozmik to his workplace in NYC a bunch of flowers. That is a decision and a choice that I've made out of love. But I might also make a decision, say, in a career sense, out of fear, which might be, I'm going to say no to the invitation to talk in front of 100 people about values. Because I fear judgment, or I fear that I just don't have the capacity to do it, without fumbling over my words.
Okay.
So then that's stopping me from actually living in alignment with one of my values of contribution. So there's incongruency there. So if we think about that, intention is every time you make a decision, have a little think about, is it hindering you and misaligning you with your value, or is it congruent incongruence with your value? And are you doing that out of love or fear? Can you think of any decisions you've made out of fear?
Yes. Okay, so a decision I made out of fear but had a positive outcome. So someone I had met, like, after a little bit, like, they were encouraging me to fully express myself and embrace, the possibilities of all the things that can happen. And I was terrified because I hate revealing too much of myself to someone because it puts me in a vulnerable position. But I really embraced it in a moment, and I told this person that they're going to be the person that I spend my life with, that I'm going to marry them. And even though she sort of rebuffed me a little bit, 6 months later, here we are doing a podcast, and she is very much into the idea of being with me. So yeah, I was terrified, but I did it anyways, and I stood by it, and I am that much more happy having done that, and I don't regret it, and I remind her every other day. And here we are.
It takes 6 months of pulling my sleeve.
Yeah, it was worth it.
Hey. Well, patience is a virtue.
Pays off.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, I'm not complaining, and I'm glad that you are patient too, which I think is also one of your values. Because otherwise, you're right, we wouldn't be here, and I wouldn't be open to the idea of jumping down the rabbit hole with this beautiful man.
Oh man, if I wasn't so brown, you could see my cheeks are like super red.
Don't worry, I'll make it up for you.
Oh, look at you, you're so cute.
I know,
Yes,
I'm
we can
really
see each other.
quite blushy, yeah. Well,
yeah.
So we've got a lot of values that are the same. We also have some values that are quite different. So can you love someone and accept someone completely, even if they have different perspectives than you?
Okay, honestly, this is something we could actually do a whole podcast on, because this is a issue that we've visited right from the jump.
Yeah.
We are as much as we get along great, we're actually very different in quite a few ways, but we were willing to have those discussions. We were willing to do our best to understand the other and respect them, and we agreed that everything we do out of love, and that we try not to do anything with malicious intent. So we make an effort to understand each other and respect each other and support each other in that regard.
Yes.
But that we can actually have a whole podcast on, because it can,
yeah. That's a really good theme, actually. Yeah. Yeah. How to communicate. Coming soon. How to communicate through your different perspectives and still respect each other. Fist pump. How do we round this one up?
Okay, so to round it up, in this podcast, we talked about the importance of a value-driven life and how important it is to take the lessons that we learned from the first podcast about finding your values and really making sure that they're in alignment with your life in every aspect of it. Ramon gave examples of how she went from not understanding her values to understanding her values and changing the entire course of her life to make sure that everything's in line with her values and having purpose behind what she's doing. And yeah, like I
Mm.
talked about how I fell in love with this woman on an airplane. I don't know if that was necessarily relatable to the entire experience, but I'm gushing over her, so I kind of have to make a point to that. But yeah.
I love it. And that was a nice little segue into, thinking about the decisions that you make and your intentions behind what you do, and are they out of love? Or are they out of fear? And having a really good look at that. And for transformation to take place, obviously we always want to go and make decisions out of love. And then if we are holding ourselves back, or there's something that's hindering us from actually moving into our fullest potential, and there's a lot of fear, then that's maybe something to look at, and we can definitely like roll with that next time. That's another theme right there.
All right, beautiful.
Love versus fear.
Oh yeah. So we're gonna wrap this up here, guys. Thank you for tuning in. Also, if you have any questions about anything that we need to clarify, we can definitely make notes and include that in the next podcast. But for now, thank you so much for tuning in here from New York and
Melbourne City. And hey, if there's anyone else listening out there that works or knows someone who works in immigration to get this man here a little bit sooner, then we would totally appreciate the call.
anyone who wants to help me hijack a plane. Let me know. All right, till next time, guys. Have a wonderful day or night.
And over and out. Ciao, ciao.